Missoula, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Missoula podcast. I'm Brandon Smith. It is February 27th, and I cannot believe we're just a couple of days away from March. Felt like January lasted an eternity, and March is just coming up at the end of the week. Spring is here. I believe we've made it through the cold, hard winter, and looking forward to all the new offerings Missoula has come springtime. Hey, really excited for today's episode on the podcast. Stephen and I had the opportunity to sit down with Heather Foster. Heather is the CEO and director of the Missoula YMCA. Heather has an amazing story from growing up in small town Montana, Coram, Montana, just between Hungry Horse and West Glacier. And she has just an incredible story of just personal growth and development, never knowing that she would end up being a CEO for a large organization and leading that organization through an extensive remodel and new build and redesign and working with architects and capital fundraising. An amazing, amazing story. So tune in, and here is Heather Foster from the Missoula YMCA. Heather, thanks for being here. Let's go back, like very, very beginning. Tell us who is Heather, where you're from, how you ended up in Missoula, Montana.
Yeah, I grew up in Coram, Montana.
Coram, where's
Coram?
I've never heard of that.
Yes, you have.
What? Yes.
The Maze,
Yes.
just north of Hungry Horse.
Absolutely.
Before West Glacier. Come on, Stephen.
Oh, that's
You've
Coram?
been to
That's
Coram.
Coram.
Okay,
I normally lovingly say it's the gas station before West Glacier,
that makes sense.
right? Because it is
Yeah.
the only gas station before Glacier
Yeah.
Park. Yeah. So I grew up in Coram, Montana. Super small town. It's a little cooler now. Like there's
There's a
some
lot to do.
fun
Yeah.
bars, and there's a distillery that did not exist when I was a
Yeah.
kid. Yeah. Went
How
to
old
school.
were you when you left Coram?
Well, I went to school in Columbia Falls, graduated high school there,
Okay,
and
that's where you
then
go to school.
yeah, which is a
Columbia
long,
Falls.
a long drive or bus
Every
ride,
day.
and one of the scariest roads ever.
Mhm.
And then went to school in Billings, which was the furthest I could get away
Yeah.
from Missoula and still pay in-state tuition. And I didn't know any. I just like walked into MSUB and was like, "How I would like to go to school." I didn't apply or try to get scholarships. I didn't know what I was doing. And yeah, went to school there. And then Missoula was sort of the middle spot in Montana and landed here. I didn't know anything about Missoula either.
What'd you go to school for at MSUB?
Health and Human Services. I really wanted to be a child and family counselor, like go get my, continuing ed. And I got married and had a baby really young. And so that sort of changed the trajectory of what I'm going to do. So the Y is like my full circle Oprah moment where I'm like back in a place caring for kids and families. And yeah.
Well, take me back to Coram again. What did your folks do for a living? Some of the hobbies growing up.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about childhood, Heather.
For a couple of years, my parents owned a really small guest ranch just outside of West Glacier. And so it was a lot of like, everybody in the family did something. So you were cleaning rooms and giving trail rides and, making up stories about what the trees were and burial grounds and just trying to get,
Sure.
guests to be excited about being there. I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting way to grow up. A lot of wranglers, and we would have traveling people come through that worked in the kitchen and do chuck wagon events and have little mini rodeos. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Pretty cool way to grow up.
Does your family still own property up there?
No, my parents got divorced and my mom was a hairdresser. So she had a teeny little shop in Martin City for a long time, which is another really small town up there. And then had another little hairdresser shop. And yeah,
Crazy.
it was kind of it was a little volatile, childhood, but it
Mhm.
was also full of adventure and
Yeah, because that area is so transient in nature. Like
Yeah.
lots of people coming to work at the park that are from out of state and people that just want the Montana experience. So what was your experience with that? Like meeting all this influx of out of state people. Did you enjoy that?
yeah, pretty cool. I mean, people from all over. My dad was an outfitter for a while. And so people would come and, want to go get elk and shoot a bear, which was weird. And, but yeah, you got to meet people from all over all over the world.
Did you take living up in that part of the country? Did you take it for granted? Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm born and raised here in Missoula. I've been to Glacier probably 6, 7 times in my
Yeah.
life. 5 of them have been in the last 4 years. Like, I didn't realize what we had. Like, it just went there as a kid and was like, I didn't care. But now it's just like unreal. And so to
Yeah.
look back and be like, I lived there.
My elementary school was in Glacier Park. Like, who gets to say that?
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and there were 60 kids, I think, from kindergarten through 6th grade. So it was very small, really pretty isolated. You know, you were far from anything, and having a guest ranch, we didn't leave very often.
Mhm.
So I went to like the big city, to Columbia Falls for junior high, and it was a little bit of a,
Yeah.
my mind was blown a
You were the
tit.
country kid
Yeah,
coming in?
for sure. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that you went to school you wanted to be family counseling?
I did, yeah.
Where did that dream start? Did it come out of your parents' divorce? Did it happen another way where you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
really want to help families stay together?
Maybe a little bit of both, therapist heal thyself. I'm
Mhm.
sure it was a part of it, but it was also, I think, from really young, like a desire to make a difference, even in a customer service sort of aspect. Like I really liked making people happier, or giving a good experience, or having people leave feeling better than they came. And so I think it was probably a combination of all of those things that led me to believe that, family counseling would be the place for me.
Mhm.
And then, having a baby. I met my husband when I was in high school. So we met when we were 17.
Wow.
Yep. Super, small town, young kids, and moved to Billings together, and then got married at 22 and had a baby at 23. And she was 6 weeks early.
Dang.
And that like changed my whole life. I was going to school at night and working all day long. I didn't come from a lot of money. And so like working has always been a part of my life.
Mhm.
And and I was like, uh-oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, here's this teeny tiny little baby that had to fight to survive, and it changed everything. So
what made got you and your husband with the tiny baby want to come to Missoula? You said it was in the middle, but did a job bring you out here?
yeah, his family was in senior housing. And so he had a job opportunity in Missoula, and he hadn't finished school yet. And so he was going to come here and finish his degree and be able to work. And then I did some physician recruitment on the side. I had worked at a couple of doctor's offices when I was in high school. And so I was able to kind of lean on some of that experience and do that and stay at home for a couple of months. And so just kind of patchworked it together. And Missoula was the middle sort of safer landing space. I still had family that lived up in Coram, and my husband's family lived in Whitefish. And so we got to be autonomous a little, but still had
Sure.
support, which was really nice.
What did your husband do when he got here? He finished up his degree, and then
Yeah,
what
he
kind
went
of
to
job
school to be a teacher.
Okay.
But then never ended up doing it. Stayed in sort of senior housing, and so it was a
Sounds
good
like
move.
you have always worked.
Yeah.
Done something. You're a stay-at-home mom, but you're still working recruiting on the side.
Yep.
Is that something that's just been a part of you? Like, you have a passion for work, business, growing companies? And then, if so, where did that take you as your child grew, got into school? Did you go back into a more traditional workforce?
Yeah, I think I always worked for stability and safety. Growing up in a pretty volatile space, there were many of times where we didn't have enough. And so I think that's always been deep rooted into like who I am. I've had times in my life where I've had multiple jobs and always worked through high school, and worked all through college. And so I would love to say it's sort of this drive to grow business, but I don't think that's what
Fear
it
of
was.
lack.
I think it was, scarcity.
Yeah.
Which really ties in for me part of the why. I didn't know anything about a YMCA when I came to work there. I was the HR person when I started. That's kind of during college, I worked at a EBMS, which is like a third-party benefit administrator, and that's what I did during the day. And so I had some good understanding of employee benefits and things like that, and that's how I kind of got into HR and did that for a decade, and then wandered into the Y one day after working at a place that didn't feel like I was contributing at all to the world in a
Yeah.
greater sense.
I was just going to ask you how you ended
Yeah.
up at the Y.
Yeah.
So you started in HR at the Y?
I did.
And how long have you been at the Y?
I've been at the Y about 9 years.
Okay.
Yeah, 9.5 years, something like that.
And forgive me, but official title, executive director?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yep.
The YMCA. And how long have you been in that role now?
About 4.
4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, about 4 years.
So you moved up the ranks.
I did. Yeah,
Okay.
Good old nonprofit style. They're like, short straw to the top. Here you go. You want to do this? You're next.
Well, what did you love about the Y when you first started there, and what's kept you there for 9 years to where you're at now? What about it?
It's like 15 little businesses under one umbrella, so that's kind of fun. I always, no day is ever the same. Like, I swear, 9.5 years later, I don't think I've ever had a day that's been the same. And the number of people that we support and serve, and the sort of range of who they all are and how they show up is incredible. Like, I think Missoula is a melting pot in general, and the Y is like another little melting pot of Missoula. You get to see every cross section of this town there.
If my math is correct, you became the executive director, and then we were hit with this pandemic that really rattled fitness centers and gyms.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you had to, I mean, there was no precedence, have no clue what to do. What was that like leading an organization through COVID that was,
Yeah.
I mean, a gym, fitness center, locker rooms, sweat.
Weird.
What was
It
that
was
like?
terrible, right? But this story is maybe even a little maybe worse than that before, because as I was the HR director, the CEO at the time promoted me to some sort of made up title where I became responsible for like development, which is fundraising, and early childcare and something else. I can't even remember, and HR. And then he ended up leaving, and the board asked me if I would be the interim. And I was like, nope, I don't think so. Not really interested in this job. And they're like, please just hold the seat for a couple of months. Let us figure out what we're going to do. You can just keep the ship moving. We'll be fine. And then we had an incident at one of our childcare centers where an employee smoked methamphetamines in one of our childcare centers.
Whoa.
And so I was the interim executive at the time that happened. It was maybe one of the scariest professionally challenging experiences I've ever had to go through, and I would never wish that on anyone, on the families that it impacted, on our organization. It was terrible. So that's, I think COVID,
That was cake.
I was like,
nothing.
I got this.
Yeah.
I mean, global pandemic, no, but I think there was a little grit and resiliency that was already built up.
I would imagine with a nonprofit, and COVID and things are shutting down and the unknown of economics. I mean, your doors are closed, funding is stopped or slowed drastically. I mean, the unknowns for your industry had to be a little scary at the time.
It was scary, but I think it also let us be who we are at our core, which is like super nimble and looking for ways to help and to strengthen our community. And so emergency childcare became our thing. Like, we propped up emergency childcare everywhere, reached out to the hospitals, we had infants in our conference room and small groups of kids all over our Y when everything was shut down. And I think that in the weirdest way, it was sort of invigorating in a time where everything was so scary, and it was still terrifying. And we were really lucky. We had a pediatrician on our board, and she was like our COVID czar and helped us navigate all of the health aspects and make sure we were being as safe as we possibly could. But we were able to run, emergency childcare from 0 to 5 years old, and then prop up everything from hybrid support for kids when school went back only a few days a week, and bought about 150 laptops and started helping kids do school. And so I think it helped me, like, not that I ever fell out of love with the Y, but it was really a moment where, like, yeah, this is who we are. Like, we can just hop into these sort of scary spaces and stand in the gap for a lot of people. And there's something kind of beautiful about that.
Yeah. What a difference you're making in the community. Okay. Since the Y is obviously built on fitness and working out and outreach to the community to give them a place to do that, if you're walking into the gym, what's your go-to workout that you're completing as the executive director of the Y?
I love it. I tell people I go to the gym every day, but the likelihood that I'm going to work out is probably really low. I love to go to spin class. Our COO teaches a spin class, actually. She's mean and terrible, but it's only 30 minutes. And so
Spin class
I love it.
leaders are the worst
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
They just love seeing people in pain.
Sadistic. Yeah, right. Yeah. So I love that on Tuesday, Thursday. And, I like group exercise, actually. I don't know. I sort of need somebody to push me and make me do it. And the Y is built on a lot of fitness, but it's kind of the backbone that allows us to do everything that we do. But it's so much more. Like, we're the largest provider of licensed childcare in the state of Montana. And I don't think a lot of people know that. There's 1,700 kids that play sports through the Y. We have a competitive swim team. We, have 170 kids a day in after-school programs. There's 1,000 kids that go through summer camp. So there's a lot of youth at our Y. Yeah, we're a gym for sure, but it's so much more.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Should we break into our
I was
power?
gonna say, let's go to our what do you
I'm calling it a Power 5 today.
Oh, boy.
Power 5 questions?
Yeah, even though there's 7.
There's 7 of them. Okay,
Yeah.
the Power 5.
Okay.
And then I want to jump in with Heather, like what's coming next for the Y, the
Yeah.
future, you guys are remodel, new construction, a whole lot going on whenever you drive by building on Russell Street. But yeah. So Heather, we alluded to this first question earlier. You came to Missoula, but when you landed in Missoula from Quorum and Billings, what was your first initial memory of Missoula, Montana?
I think Billings is such a really unique town, and people give it a really hard time. And it's changed a ton since I went to college there. But it was a very hardworking town. Like, everybody was up at 4 a.m. and the roads were always busy. And so I got to Missoula, it was a little like screech. And I was shocked that people were floating the river in the middle of the day. And I was like, what is going on? Does anybody work here? And then it took me like 3 months and I was like, this is so cool. Why doesn't everybody live like this? Like, this is how it's supposed to be. So I think my initial reaction was like the vibe was just so different. The pace was really different than anywhere else. And it was a adjustment. And then something that I was like, yeah, this is where I want to be.
I was recently in a conversation with someone and they said I think they're talking about Billings. Said Billings is so industrial.
Yeah.
And Missoula feels like you guys are all just on vacation all the time.
Yeah. That's
It's
totally what
yes,
I thought.
yes.
That's exactly what I thought.
That's Missoula. I love it.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go-to coffee shop for you, getting your caffeine fix. Where are you going?
Black coffee. That's
Come
for sure my
on.
favorite. Yeah. Yeah. Also
They're
the
not
little
the official coffee of the Missoula podcast, but they're close.
They're close. That episode a couple weeks ago, Jim Chapman. I don't know if you followed him on social media. The guy, I don't know if you know Jim. He is in the Clark Fork River every day, like through this winter. Like, he's doing like cold plunges in the river.
Wow.
But his photography, like, he does so much more than coffee. And black coffee, staple,
Delicious.
hands down.
What's
Yeah.
your drink of choice when you go there?
Just a Americano.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me
Straight
too.
up coffee.
Yeah. It's awesome.
How about restaurant? What's your go-to? restaurant in
Second
Missoula?
Set was my favorite. I loved it. I'm so sad they're closed. So probably Port Rouge next.
I don't know what is Port Rouge.
Steven,
I know.
you don't
It's
know where
the-
Quorum is. Do you know the Red Door?
There you go.
The Red Doors?
The Old Pearl?
Yes.
Yeah.
Down from Dram Shop.
Got it.
Do you get out?
Not much.
Dude.
Not much.
Wow.
Yeah, sorry about
Okay.
that.
So good. Go
Okay.
there.
I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't let my wife know we're going there.
You are going there.
What zip code do you live in?
59803.
Yes.
Yeah.
Best zip code in
Is
Missoula.
that the cool zip
That's the
code?
coolest.
Obviously.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm
Absolutely.
there. Yeah.
What, there's the bumper sticker, keep Missoula weird.
Yeah.
What to use the weirdest thing
I
about
don't-
Missoula?
I don't know. I thought about this because I think everybody thinks we're weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's weird about Missoula. I don't know. That was a tough one for me to answer.
Everything's just acceptable.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird as the normal.
Right. But why is that
The norm
weird?
here.
That's like how
Yeah.
it should be, I think.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's what us Missoulians love about it. It's like,
Come as you are.
You do your weird thing. I'll do my weird thing. We're all good.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah. Me too.
On the contrary, what do you love the most about Missoula?
Maybe that. Right. Which is
So weird.
that we're weird.
Missoula's so weird.
Yeah, I think it's a very accepting town. It feels like a vibrant town. It feels like it has a little bit of a soul. not to pick on any other parts of Montana, but sometimes you'll go to
Bozeman.
towns and you just don't feel the soul of a place. I think you get
Yeah.
that in Missoula and you don't other places.
We absolutely can pick on other parts of
I
Montana.
know. I'm trying not to.
Oh, yeah, you got to be more
You're good.
diplomatic. We're the hosts of Missoula podcast. We will
Say what
rag
you
on
want.
Bozeman
Yeah.
whenever we want. Okay, and then last, I love this question just because it gives us an insight into your life. Is there any specific book or author or anything impactful that has helped you more than anything else in your journey? I don't know if that's like a child care book or, could be anything. What's
Yeah.
been the biggest inspiration for your life?
Ooh, well, you changed the question from what's the biggest inspiration in my life. I think one of the very first books I ever read just for pure enjoyment was when I was a senior in high school, which is maybe a little embarrassing, was David James Duncan, The Brothers K. That was probably the book that taught me that I could read for enjoyment, not for school or whatever it might be. So that was a change for me because now I read all the time. Professional books, probably you gotta love Simon Sinek and like Adam Grant and some of those people I think have been inspiring as you sit in a leadership seat and try to figure out how to.
Do you read quite a bit?
I do.
As a business leader?
Yeah, I do.
What are you currently reading?
Well, right now I'm not reading anything. I do love Adam Grant's podcast, which is probably what I'm listening to more.
Work-life balance for the listeners out there. That's what that's called, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Great podcast.
Yeah. Yep.
Leadership.
And Rethink. Like he has a book out there called Rethink, which I really like. It's sort of, about staying really curious and making sure that there's, I think, a preconceived notion that if you change your mind that you're wishy-washy. And I don't believe that to be true. Like, I think with enough information and flexibility, like that's probably where you need to sit instead of rigidity. And
so as we jump back into good answers, by the way.
Thanks. Was there a test?
You passed the Power 5. Before we jump into what's next for the why, what do you think makes you a great leader right now? I know you got to brag on yourself.
No.
And you just some of the things you've had to learn over the years that it's really helped you thrive in your current role.
Yeah, I don't know if I would describe myself as a great leader. I think I love to be around people, and I love to be around people that are smarter than me. And so I think I'm pretty good at recognizing talent and helping elevate talent and, maybe pushing a little. I think I'm a pretty good listener when it comes to whether it's staff or even just the community. Like, what does the community need and want, and how do we need to show up to be a little different? I don't know. I think I'm flexible. I'm not afraid to fail and try something new and switch gears and do something different. I think that's why I fit really well with the Y. Like we're large. Like we're a big employer. We have about 350 employees, which I think a lot of people don't know. And a ton of them are really young.
Yeah.
Like 57% of our staff team are under the age of 22. And there is something really cool about the new young kids that are entering the workforce. I know people love to like pick on teens, but they are advocates like I've never seen before. And they're really ambitious, but they're balanced. And I think if you can, work with people and give them opportunities to grow, there's something really exciting about that. So I find joy in that. And maybe that's what makes me okay at my job, is finding joy in what I do.
What's one of the more difficult aspects of your job, being a director of an organization?
Budgets suck. Yeah, it's terrible, right? Like we want to be a place that pays people a living wage and also not charge people a ton to be able to use our services. And so those two things don't work very well together. So,
and you do not turn down anybody due to financial restraints, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we made a promise. The Y, when it was started, it's been around for about 56 years, 57 years, something like that, was that no one would ever be turned away for the inability to pay. So there's a financial assistance application that's just a super short one sheet. And that's I think another beautiful thing about the Y, right? Like we level the playing field for so many families. Kids Want to play soccer? We only charge like $26 for a season of soccer, which is really affordable to begin with. But if you can't pay that, like we will make sure your kid plays soccer.
That's awesome.
If it's access to the health and wellness facility, you know, you can have somebody that's the CEO of a big company in Missoula on a treadmill next to somebody that is there getting full financial assistance. Like that's what makes it really, really different. You don't get that other places. So yeah, we don't turn anyone away for the
And that kind of feels very Missoulian.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Rubbing shoulders with different socioeconomic people, different class. I love that.
Me too.
That's amazing.
Yep.
So Heather, right now I'm driving down Russell Street. I look over and I see tractors and building supplies and excavators and chain link fences. What's going on? What's happening at the Y?
Just like 26 months of construction is what I'm living in right now.
26 months.
Yeah. We're doing a massive capital campaign. So we, before COVID hit in about 2019, we hired a consultant group to come out and look at our Y. Our Y hasn't had a major renovation since it was built. You know, that little yellow building that's on our campus, if you know where the Y is on Russell, that was the original YMCA. So it was a donated building brought over in like a flatbed truck and volunteers propped it up. Crazy. I think it fell down twice. And then
what year did the existing building get built?
83.
I feel like I remember as a kid, like.
Yeah, early 80s, 82, 83. And then they did another expansion on the back of it right after it was done and funded. Okay. And then it hasn't really had a major renovation since. Like the locker rooms are original. I call them prison showers. You know, they're like it's rough. They're original. Yeah. And then childcare. That little yellow building is our infant toddler building, and it's busting at the seams. There's not enough childcare in Missoula in general. But so that new building that's kind of been resurrected in the back of our campus is a new childcare building, and that'll be open May. And it'll be able to double our capacity for childcare on our main campus. So that's happening. And then we're renovating every square inch of our building.
Really?
Yep. All the locker rooms are getting redone. We're adding another group.
So no more copper and gold lockers in there?
Yeah, right. I know.
Staples.
We've actually auctioned a few of those off. Like people really, because they're old field house lockers because, you know, reduce, reuse, recycle, nonprofits. We just take all the old stuff and make it ours. Yeah, so those are going. Thank goodness. It's time. No more yellow tile. I'm like, well, who chose this? It's terrible. Adding another group exercise studio on the front of the building, expanding our drop-in child watch. That will happen. And then in the very back of the building, we have preschool right now, but it'll turn into a youth innovation space. So if you're 7 and older and you're a Y member, you can be there unsupervised. Cool. So we want a space where kids have creative outlets and aren't just like, how many pieces of paper towel can we shove in the toilet? Because that is what will happen if you have a lot of unsupervised kids in that building. So it'll have everything from a sound booth with like podcast equipment, green screen for like YouTube. You know, every kid is going to be a TikTok or YouTube star.
Influencers.
Yeah. And they're already making them in our space. So we might as well like give them an area that's supervised and they could actually learn something. Awesome. And then we'll have like a gaming room, everything from computers where they can learn like media arts to be able to e-game and play esports. And the University of Montana is partnering with us and are going to kind of help build that out. So there's a lot of protection. And then there's some mentorship that happens from the esports team at the U. There's like hundreds of kids that play at the U. It's pretty wild.
Have you seen that? It's even the esports, like D1 athletes competing against.
It's really cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And we've always been very anti-screen because we're like, move your body, get sweaty. But we lost a big group of kids. And there is something that, you know, there is balance to be found in all of that. And so if we can get a kid that comes to the Y for e-gaming or esports, I don't even know what to call it. I'm going to learn. But then we get them on the climbing wall or playing a game in the Blue Gym. Like
you want.
That's exactly what we want. And then there'll also be like a life skills kitchen because kids want to learn how to knit and sew and make food and make healthy choices. And home ec is not something that kids are electing. Like you had to take home ec when I was a kid. It's not really the same anymore. So that space I'm really excited about. It's going to be super cool.
Awesome.
And then if we can fully fund it, we're also going to build an outdoor court space, like an aeronasium, basketball, volleyball, pickleball, an all abilities playground, and a splash pad.
Come
So it'll be like a
on.
full campus.
Dang, you
Yeah.
guys are doing some work.
Yeah, it's $20 million. Which is fine.
Excuse me?
Yeah, $20 million.
20 million.
Yep. So we've been fundraising our board, and we had a volunteer group that was helping us fundraise. We're at about $16.3 million raised, and it's all private. So we don't really have any access to public funding. So it's all individuals, donors, foundations that have really supported this.
I would imagine the board's got to be pretty happy with you and your annual review of just, hey, this girl from Coron who was in HR is
I don't
16
know.
million raised. That's impressive.
They're probably really annoyed, actually, because they originally were like, we can't raise more than 7. And then I said, well, do you think we could do 15? And then they finally reluctantly were like, all right, we'll do 15. And I'm like, psst, it's 20. So
Sneak that in there.
Yeah, they're probably like,
Oh, man.
But, a couple of years, you learn what the community wants and needs. And I think we've been able to make some scope changes. And
what's kind of the timetable on this project? What's the goal for the?
We need to raise at least $3 more million. Like soon is my real hope and dream. I think for the first time, our Y is looking at going into debt to try to cover a little bit of it. I'm not terribly excited about that because budgets suck.
Yeah.
But I think to get it done, it would be a real disservice to the community, I think, and to our donors to not get this whole project done. So that's our plan. Next couple of months, try to get that raised. And then the entire construction project should be done by spring of 2025.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been a wild ride.
Heather, as both of us are parents of kids, we know the battle with the screens and just, setting that standard of being active, being healthy. So I just want to thank you for pushing forward, maybe against some odds in the pandemic and budgets and all that stuff that we hate. But we're so thankful that you're in this community in Missoula and the Y is here because it's just awesome. I mean, I love seeing all the kids playing soccer. Like, that's the coolest thing in the world. I'm not a soccer guy, but to see all those little amoebas going around.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's amazing.
The Y, it's a staple to me. I mean, I remember playing soccer, basketball from 3rd grade on. Just the different seasons of life, memberships at the Y, the relationships built that have come and gone. One of the guys invested in me, Dennis Bender, at the Y.
Oh, Dennis.
Got me into running and ran my first marathon because of his influence. And just the Y is a staple in the community and my life, my family's life. So grateful for you and your leadership and
Awesome.
what the Y has done in our community.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to help out or get more information, is there any place we can do that?
Our website. Yep. Super easy. Just YMCA-Missoula.org. And there's all kinds of information on there. We're running our annual support campaign right now, which is just to support our financial assistance program, which is that promise that no one's ever turned away. And then capital. Anybody who wants to talk to me about capital, I'm all in. Happy to give tours. And our community has been wildly gracious. Like, it's just one of the most humbling experiences ever to fundraise in this community.
When did this project start? How long have you been working on?
It paused after COVID, and then we picked it back up. I think we started fundraising in mid 2021.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a couple of years.
Hopefully the light's
It's a
the
grind.
end of the tunnel.
That's right.
Spring 25.
Yep. I
That's
think
awesome.
we'll get there. That's the plan.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. We wish you the best of luck.
Thank
and
you.
Have fun in those spin classes.
Yeah. When I go, I will go. Now I feel guilty. I need to go.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah. Thank you.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Balla, producer of the Missoula podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.